guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the strange circumstances surrounding the death of Rey Rivera. This case, as probably many of you will know, was recently covered by a streaming service, and it's really inspired amateur detectives everywhere, with fans looking into the clues and coming up with their own theories. And I will put some of these in the video further on, and you guys can make your own minds up on what you think happened to him. So I have actually found some new information, not with regards to the case, but with regards to Porter Stansberry and his statement on how he was portrayed in the series to the viewers. So I will let you know that a little later on and let you know what he actually said in his statement. I'd just like to say my normal disclaimer: I don't mean any disrespect to anyone I'm going to speak about today. I've just simply gathered the information off the internet and made it into one video for educational purposes. Rey Rivera was a 32-year-old writer and videographer for a company called Stansberry Associates, and he had a brother and a sister. He was married to Allison Rivera, and they actually moved from California to Baltimore so that Rey could work for his longtime best friend, Porter Stansberry. They'd been friends for a very long time, since the age of 15. They played water polo together, they went to prom together, and they just basically known each other for a long time. Rey loved writing, watching films. He loved spending time with his family, and his family have stated that he had a beautiful smile that lit up a room, and he always seemed to be happy. And he also wanted to become a writer and a director. It was on the 16th of May 2006 when Rey received a call around about 6:30. A brief conversation followed, with Rey saying "oh" before running out of his house in a hurry, like he was late for an appointment or something. And this was according to a house guest that they had staying with at the time called Claudia. His wife had gone on a business trip that morning. He'd seen her off. They'd say "I love you." She went off, and once finished, she decided to ring home, speak to her husband. Now, when she did ring, she didn't receive an answer. So, wondering where it was, she obviously rang Claudia, who was staying at the house that day. And Claudia actually told her the story that he received a phone call and out he went. So she said, "I'll go and check to see whether he's actually come back." But he had not returned. And the next morning, Claudia actually rang Allison to let her know that he was still not home. Allison knew something was wrong. She came straight home. And she began calling on everyone on her way home, asking if they'd seen him, if they'd heard of him, if they literally knew anything, ringing family and friends. And his brother Angel actually caught a flight straight to Baltimore, as this was just so out of character for Rey. Allison stated later on that they did find out where this call had actually come from. It had come from Angara Publishing, but the specific caller couldn't be identified. And Angara is a global publishing company, and it has a lot of subsidiary companies. And one of those subsidiary companies was actually Stansberry Associates. However, at the time of the call being made, all of the calls routed through a main switchboard. So it basically could have been pretty much anyone who'd made the mysterious phone call that day. And to this day, we've still not found out who actually did make that phone call. When Allison got home, she found that his car had gone. She found snacks and drink that had been left open on the side, that obviously Rey was going to eat and drink, but he was nowhere to be found. He never came back. They did report him missing, and the home kind of became the centre of activity where they would work from in the search efforts to locate Rey. Porter, his longtime friend, put up a $1,000 reward, and they made media appeals, they made posters, they visited shops and went all around the community. The family were just getting really scared. No money had been used, none of his credit cards had been accessed. Where was Rey? After 6 days, on the 22nd of May, Allison's parents decided to go and look for Rey's car in the parking lots. And remarkably, they actually did find it. It was close to the Belvedere Hotel in a parking lot, and it wasn't actually far from his place of work either. The police arrived, and they found that there was a ticket on the screen of the car. Now, the ticket was issued the next day from the night he went missing, the next morning. So this meant that Rey had gone there, got out and left the car there, and it had actually now been sat there for 6 days. They began performing searches all around the area. His car was there. Surely he must have been seen by somebody. Somebody must know something. So that's kind of where they then sort of positioned the searches. and 3 of his co-workers actually decided to go up onto the roof of a parking lot near the Belvedere, and this is where they came across a fairly small hole in a metal roof that was kind of a lower building to the Belvedere Hotel. And they also spotted a pair of flip-flops next to this hole. They called the police, obviously, and that is when they opened the door to this room and they actually found the decomposing body of Rey Rivera. And this was 8 days after he went missing. They took him for post-mortem. They found that he had suffered severe injuries. He had broken ribs, punctured lungs. He had 9-inch lacerations, skull damage, broken bones in his legs. And with those kind of injuries, it was felt that he had to have come from a severe height to actually go through that hole. Again, the roof was metal. It's not like it would have been easy to actually go through. You would have had to come from a drastic height to have gained the velocity to have gone through this hole. And the biggest question was, how did he actually get through that hole? It never really made sense, and not only that, Rey was actually afraid of heights. The rough estimate of the position of this hole was around about 45 feet from the roof of the hotel. So if he had fallen off, if he was pushed, if he had jumped, how would he have made such a distance? It was all very strange. And if we do take the run jump theory, Rey was actually in flip-flops. He wasn't in trainers or anything like that. That would have made him get a good spring to his jump, and it was kind of thought at the time that it was pretty much impossible that this is what had happened. They looked into other possibilities. There was actually a lower down ledge on the 11th floor. Now this ledge wrapped around the building, and it would have been more plausible that he'd actually, if he'd jumped, that he would have actually done it from this ledge, and it would have been more possible to reach this hole from there. But the snags with that was that to get to this ledge, you would have to go through someone's private quarters, someone's office, and the windows were on half windows and they barely opened, if at all. So it would have been quite difficult for anyone to get out onto this ledge, basically. And again, he wasn't seen on any cameras in the hotel. No witnesses saw him around the hotel. And if he was trying to get on this ledge or onto the roof, it was very strange that no one had actually seen him at all. They also looked into the possibility of parking garage roof. Maybe that was where he jumped from. They felt that, again, the hole was too far away to be able to reach it from this roof. And the drop was only 20 foot. It was kind of more reasonable that somebody would survive a 20-foot drop. And with the roof being metal and the extent of his injuries, it was unlikely that this is where he'd come from. And to this day, the hole does remain a mystery as to where he came off of that building. I mentioned earlier that when his friends went on the roof, they did spot flip-flops next to the hole. Not only his flip-flops were there, they found his glasses and his phone. And the phone was fully functioning. There was not a crack in the screen, and there was no real damage to it. And his glasses weren't even scratched. It was very strange, again, that his injuries were so severe, and yet his personal items were basically undamaged. I mean, nowadays, you drop a phone out of your pocket, quite often it does break. I've had it happen to myself numerous times. I do know that this was 2006, phones were different back then, but from such a height for his body to have sustained such major injuries, for a phone to not be damaged whatsoever, I find highly, highly strange. Even if, say, it was in his pocket as he was falling, and it came out last second, you would expect to still see some damage on it. You'd expect his glasses to at least be scratched, but there was nothing. It kind of looked, and the detective said it at the time, as though it was staged. And maybe this could explain why there wasn't any damage. Who knows? There was an item that was never actually recovered, and it was a money clip that his wife had bought him, which was engraved with his initials, and they never actually found that. His wife did think that this was very strange, as he always kept it on him. She searched the car, she searched the house, she searched everywhere, but it was never actually recovered. And all of this did happen in public. So they went around the hotel asking if anyone had seen him, if anyone had seen a man fall, if anyone had heard anything out of the ordinary, to see if people would come forward to say that they saw or heard anything. But no one did. Not one person came forward to say that they'd seen Rey that day, seen a man fall off the building, heard a loud crash, heard anything. Nobody came forward. There was no evidence of him being beaten or anything like that. So because of this, it was widely believed that he had actually committed suicide. However, his family would never believe this. His wife believes that Rey definitely did not kill himself. He was not a guy, apparently, that would jump off a roof. Rey really wanted a family. He was looking forward to his life with Alison. He was always happy. She actually believes that he in fact stumbled onto something big and was possibly killed because of that. Alison actually met up with the ME and was informed that the way that his shins were actually broken didn't really correlate with the fall in any way whatsoever, and said that they wouldn't let the police close the case so easily. So they obviously thought that something might have been a bit suspicious, but that's all they would say. They wouldn't say anything else. His death was ruled as undetermined. But again, it was widely believed by the police and by many of the police, that he did commit suicide. So like I said, Alison believed that he'd stumbled across something that he shouldn't have. She also stated that before his death, the alarm went off. And the alarm never went off. It was around about 1 AM and Rey came out, fear filling his eyes, with a bat. And she said that Rey was never really scared of anything, so to seem like that was quite odd. It then went off once more and a window had been tampered with. And that was the evening he actually went missing, as though someone was trying to get in the house. Alison went home. She completely searched the entire house, ripped it apart, and she actually found a note taped to the back of his monitor of his PC. She was looking for something, for anything that could give her a clue as to her husband's death. And this note was written the day he disappeared. She was sure of that because there was actually the clippings out of it. So a section had been cut out of it and she found that in the bin. So she knew it was done the day he went missing. Now this note was very, very strange. It had names on it, film titles, random sentences, Freemasons, TV shows, books. It just had a collection of all these random things in one small note. Why were all of these random things compiled into one note? There, for example, there was an entire page of people that he knew. This letter was described as cryptic, and people actually believed that it was written in code. So this note, personally, I did find very strange. But in the same respect, it was well known that Rey always jotted down random thoughts in numerous journals, random philosophies. So maybe this kind of thing was more normal for Rey. I do still find it really odd though. Why did he feel the need to tape it behind the PC? It's like he was hiding it from someone. So it's just really, really weird. What do you guys think about the note? The FBI did receive this note. Alison gave it to them and they cleared it as not of suicidal intent. Now, Stansberry Associates, where Rey had worked, as soon as his body was discovered, they put a gag order on all of their employees. And anyone that may have known something or knew Rey, maybe knew any information whatsoever, were now not allowed legally to speak to the police. Porter, his friend, and the company lawyered up. And they apparently wouldn't return any of the detectives' calls. And the detective stated that he found this very suspicious. Alison couldn't understand, after being so close with Rey, they were like best friends, how he now had no comment on Rey's death. So like I said, I have contained a new statement for Porter Stansberry, and I would like to let you know some of the more recent theories of the case before I actually show you that statement. Theory 1, the game. One of the more recent theories actually links Rey's death to David Fincher's film, The Game. And this actually features a character dying in a similar way to Rey. This was posted on Reddit and it kind of points out a connection between the note and the fall. And this film was actually listed on his note. And the theory is that maybe he was copying the scenes of the film. Theory 2, helicopter. Given that there was no real evidence and no one saw him enter the building, people theorized that his body had to have come from somewhere. People actually believe that maybe he was dropped from a helicopter. Obviously, there are things that would hinder this theory, such as the sheer sound of a helicopter. Nobody reported hearing anything like that. Other things like airspace issues and altitude that he would have to get to actually release the body. Theory 3, suicide. Maybe he did actually jump to his death as an unfortunate result of his mental illness, and the note left behind was evidence of this mental illness. Theory 4, staged. That he was murdered and that someone had positioned his body beneath the hole along with the items that were on top of the roof that were kept intact. Theory 5, money. Rey did actually write a rebound report earlier on for a different company, and this did lose money for almost anyone who bought them. Maybe some powerful people maybe lost money due to one of Rey's publications, and maybe they took action. When the series, which did put this case back into the public eye, stated that his friend Porter Stansberry would not comment on the case. Although they didn't accuse him of foul play, of course they're not going to do that. They need to stay non-biased and just give the facts of the case. It did leave some viewers feeling that he knew more than he was letting on. Porter did actually make a statement recently. He stated that it was completely untrue and that he did everything he could to help in the investigation of Rey Rivera. And this included meeting a detective in 2006. He said his family's received death threats, and he's even been approached by friends and potential business partners and has been questioned about the matter. He even stated that he had hired a private investigator to look for Rey, and that when they found his body and that he had taken his own life, that he was very shocked and saddened. He also went on to say that once he saw all of the facts and the financial pressures that Rey was under, it wasn't much of a mystery. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that he does believe that his friend committed suicide. Although obviously I can't confirm this. I basically wanted to put this in my video because we haven't really heard any new information off Porter. And now that we have, it may sway how some people have perceived him. Obviously, it's up to you on how you feel about this statement, and it's for you guys to decide on your own theory or which theory you believed as to what happened to Rey Rivera. I personally do think the circumstances were very strange, and it's the letter I find most intriguing. Was it just a bunch of random writings, or was it actually code for something? I guess we'll probably never know. In my opinion, I don't actually think that he did kill himself, but again, I don't know what his mental state was or any of the pressures he was under. I do really believe that he couldn't have ended up where he did from jumping from the Belvedere. Some of the injuries weren't consistent, and the rather unscathed items that kind of appeared as if they were staged. It just all rings alarm bells to me, but I've also looked into things like base jumping, and that maybe the force of a running jump off the end of a building could have actually made him make that distance, that 45-foot distance, to end up through that hole and where his body did. And personally, in flip-flops, I don't believe that that is what he could have done. But again, we just really don't know what happened on that day. And this is just simply my theory. Let me know what your guys' theories are. What do you think happened to Rey? If you have any more cases that you'd like me to look into, please do let me know and I'll look into them for you. But for now, that's all I have on the case of Rey Rivera. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!